We made it. Looks like we made it. We made it to January 2021. Woo, woo, woo. Okay, so we're here. We're in a new year. Oh my gosh, there is so much to do. And not surprisingly, based on the numerology and the astrology for January 1st, 2021, the numbers sometimes back up in order to go forward. And that happens oftentimes as we change months and especially as we change years. So here we are. If we add all those numbers together, you're going to get the number 7. Now, you've heard me say before, the number 7 is about strategies and structures. The number 7 is about finding a rhythm, finding a flow, finding a pattern. It's about balancing your cognitive left brain with your intuitive right brain, because when you've got both of those working together, you kind of get the best of both without either of the worst of both sabotaging it, because the mind can't possibly know everything and the intuition cannot possibly explain everything. So when you get the two together, especially in this realm, because we're in a particular realm, so we have a intuitive mind that helps us navigate the physical world, but we need our cognitive mind to give us structure, the number 7, and a strategy in order to be able to manage and make things manifest here. So part of this pattern, because we're backing up to go forward, is to finish up those things that were started. You know, especially important for 2021. Never has it been more clear that humanity needs to grow and really understand the mechanisms that are used to control, confuse, and manipulate. And that is why a plan needs to happen that allows more and more of humanity to awaken from that slumber of denial and see past what we just want to see. It is no different than how we have learned to deal with animals in zoos. You know, if you've seen them with the tigers, you know, the most dangerous of creatures, they actually try to keep them in infant mode, and they continue to feed them with bottles with milk, and they stay in that way in a more immature state. They're more dependent. And so they don't have to bring out that wild instinct because, number 1, they're completely fed. Number 2, they're not stressed or challenged in any way. And number 3, you're giving them, you know, a milk which is an association with that immature state of consciousness. So growing up in nature and in the wild requires all of us to become very alert, sometimes ruthless, cunning, and acquire the skills that allow us to survive. Comfort, ease, and not wanting for much just allows our mind to remain in a more immature state. Having a full life requires us to move past the illusion of denial that comfort holds in place. If 2020 taught us anything, it taught us that being uncomfortable gave us new abilities, drive, and instinct to try those things that were way outside of our comfort zone. Great teachers showed me by example to reach and lean into discomfort. And that is how I learned to expand and allow myself to grow in life. And I'm not pretending I'm perfect. I'm not saying I do it every time. I'm not saying that, you know, life doesn't throw me curveballs that I collapse, because it does, right? But the teachers were trying to say that if you lean in just enough so that you do not panic or back up, that's good. But you also need to lean into enough where you are forced to look past your biases and comfort zones. All forms of growth are uncomfortable. I mean, especially if one has fallen asleep and gotten so cozy that there was no need to stretch. As a psychic, I understand that change happens more often than not because the universe knows that we need growth more than comfort. We marvel at why things happen in our life, but it seems that while we long for grace, ease, and flow, instinctually our soul knows that such things are transitory and never meant and never permanent in a world such as this one. And while patterns and systems, the number 7, makes us comfortable, they do need to be modified and changed and released in order for an evolution to happen on a deeper level. And that is why I personally have a saying, and that is, this is what is true for me right now. This is what I have as awareness at this moment in time. But it is probably not the only answer, nor is it the only truth, but it is a truth for where my consciousness is right now. And I think that's really important because, you know, there's so much aggravation and frustration about, you know, why people believe what they believe. And the bottom line is that they believe on the level of consciousness that they're sitting on. and to a person on a different level of consciousness, and I'm not saying better or worse, I'm just saying different, other people's biases and perceptions and beliefs and quote truths seem bizarre. They seem bizarre and unreal, but on the level that they're at, they seem true. They seem feasible. And so that's why, to me, consciousness is a process. And if I'm really honest with myself, what I perceived as truth when I was 16 did not become true at 45. Things that I perceived were true in my 20s ended up being limited and not as fully evolved as they were when I was again in my 50s. And so now at 60, I'm going to say that this is what's true for me now based on, all my history and all my experience, but at least I'm smart enough to say, I am sure that this isn't the whole truth. I am sure this is not everything. I'm sure this is as much of everything as I can possibly understand, because the teachers used to say that you can only perceive something at about a half level above where your consciousness is at. So, many times when I'm working with somebody, I'm talking to them and I go over their head and, they're grasping, they're kind of reaching and grasping, but it'll actually go past them. And so if you actually ask them, what did I just say? Which I would never do in a reading. But if I had asked that, they actually wouldn't be able to repeat it back. So, in the game of life, I try to look at where somebody is really at, and I try to talk to them a half level above where they're at, to give them like a pathway or a marker, like reach this way, like this is a really good door. You're kind of already going that way, but let's reach a little bit further into that particular door. And then when they integrate that, then they've got another half level to go, and you can actually progress really rapidly if somebody is giving you steps rather than. I saw this beautiful meme the other day that was, a person that had a ladder that had lots of small steps, and so they were standing really, really high up. And then there was another person whose rungs on their ladder were so high that, they're trying to reach for that first rung and they can't even reach that rung. And that meme actually got me to kind of bring this out today because of the structure and strategy that sometimes even if truth is really truth, if it's so far beyond where somebody's consciousness is and their evolution, they can't quite reach it or they can't grasp it, they can't hold on to it to be able to pull themselves up, it really doesn't do them any good at all. I mean, it kind of only will make them angry and frustrated and then try to blame you and react to you. So, try to look at people in your life at this point and say, where are they evolving and where are they stretching? And then support them in that stretching. If you have tools that help them in that particular direction, because, nobody has all the tools for all the directions. I mean, if somebody said, hey, I'm reaching into physics, Suzanne, can you help me reach there? I'm like, no, got nothing on this, right? So every one of us has a gift that we have to give. And, each of us is trying to give our gift in our own way. But sometimes it's about how you give the gift that has the greatest impact. All right. My astrology today. Yes, finally and officially we are in 2021 and we start off the year with the moon in the happy bouncy sign of Leo. Take pride in the things you do and know that your actions are felt in very meaningful ways. The communication planet Mercury moves into a sextile with the emotionally intuitive sign of Neptune, a lovely time to meditate on world peace and hopefully give insight into the places where we want and need more information. Personally, let yourself sleep in for a moment. Then it may be possible to understand things on a much broader plane of perception. Is humanity beginning to see how much it is interconnected? Regardless, be practical in how we apply this new information into our lives. Intuition is great, but humanity must learn that the balance of this reality with intuitive knowing is the most essential. Notice that the subtle happening right now is, on many, many levels, it's kind of like all over the place. There's so much subtle messages coming in. Our inspired processes support those we love with our faith and belief in them as we all move forward into this new and transformational time. Interactions become more important, and our more noble self wants to reach out and connect in ways that have a deeper impact and meaning. Venus and Uranus square off in a minor way, making this ongoing anxiety and restlessness a bit worse. It is time for some small changes that will allow greater expansion of awareness. Understanding what is important is essential for going forward into this very new place in 2021. Okay, my quote for today. No one ever does life without creating a few mistakes, which are designed to teach lessons of humility and compassion. No one ever does life wanting to screw up so badly that they hurt others. But everyone will need to learn and grow through a heavy dose of reality. No one ever feels ready. No one thinks such harshness is necessary, but mankind prefers to lounge in comfort. And when truth hits, the more one has denied that truth, the harder that reality smacks. Okay, and my blog for today are my personal 2021 New Year's resolutions and intentions. Okay, so this is not about losing weight. This is not about, becoming a famous artist. This is not about any of that. I think 2021, we really need to look at reality. So, my personal resolutions and intentions are to embrace radical change and to allow myself to move into a faster flow with life. That's one. Number 2, to allow more heart connection with those that intend to use kindness and compassion as their guide. I mean, a super critical boundary, okay? You don't have heart connection with people that want to lash out at you, hurt you, be mean to you, attack you, send other people after you to attack. I mean, you just don't want to be aligned with people like that, okay? To support the fullest expression of truth in this world is number 3. Number 4, to allow life to take on new colors and meaning. Number 5, to try new things that put me on an edge. Number 6, to allow others to do the things that help them feel safe and to not judge their choices. Number 7, to call out the liars that intend to use words as a form of fear and terrorism. Number 8, to let go of those things and people from my past that I have outgrown and to not hang on to those things that are no longer needed in my life. Number 9, to consistently and actively put my money into places that serve this world and make a difference in the lives of those suffering, whether they are people, animals, or ecosystems. And number 10, to give permission for others to make mistakes and to be so open that they feel safe enough to admit those mistakes. Okay, enjoy everyone. Take care of yourself. Bye.